This is a short video on observations for Earl 106. This video is to give you an idea of how to complete yours using the guidelines that I've provided here. This is a sample paper from another student, so you'll see that you should always start out with filling in the information about where you've gone, the date, the age, and the address of where you observed. Even if you've gone on campus, you still need to fill out this information appropriately. When you go to fill out your response, you will have taken notes while you're at your observation that help you gather this information. So whenever you're at observations, take your assignment so you know what you're looking for. In this first observation, you're looking for examples of developmentally appropriate practice, 12 principles of development, how have you seen that? Incidents of attachment or building relationships, how the environment supports culture or relationships. And so basically what you'll do is you'll read the question when you're completing your assignment, and you'll restate the question as a statement. Could say something like, I saw many examples of developmentally appropriate practice during my time observing infant toddler. Developmentally appropriate practice means, and then explain what it is in your own words. So include what you've learned maybe from website or class discussions, but give some content. There should be a clear connection between the question of what you learned and then examples of what you saw. So always start with, if the question is about developmentally appropriate practice, then talk about a little bit about what that means, and then give two examples. Two examples makes a much stronger paper because it gives me a chance to see that you really get it on a deeper level than just, guessing. So I always encourage two questions. You can see here their answers are in bold. That's not necessary. You might fix that when you do your own examples, but you can get an idea here of examples that they use to indicate developmentally appropriate practice. And then following through, now just keep in mind that observations have been updated a little bit, so the questions here might be slightly different than the one you're working on just because we've updated, but in general they're the same. And here students are talking about the 12 principles of development. You do not need to talk about all 12, but you should give examples of a few. You can see here that they've talked about an example of how children develop at different rates and how domains of development are interconnected. They've given specific examples so that I can see they've read the 12 principles, and they've given detailed examples. There's a spelling error here, so you just want to always proofread your work. Read your work out loud. Your brain will self-correct when you read silently because it knows what you want to say. If you read out loud, you'll catch all of your errors a lot of the time. Following through, you can see they're going to talk about brain development and attachment, and you want to talk about what you learned about that, and then give examples. If for some reason you did not see a lot of good examples, still follow through with, here's what I saw, and here's what I should have seen. I did not see a teacher promoting relationships. I saw this, and this is what I should have seen or wished I would have seen or would do if it were me. So never, 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 ever is it okay to say, I didn't see any of that. You always want to make connections, whether it's negative because you didn't see it and you know there should be more, or whether it's positive and you have a couple of good examples. So you'll see this particular student gave several good examples on each one. This was absolutely an A paper. Here it's about Piaget, and they explain his theory, and then they also give examples about his theory as they saw it in action. PA early learning standards, again, what did you see the children doing that met what the expectations are for their age and the standards that are used for them? Culture, and the idea of a holistic curriculum. Always talk about what you've learned about the content of the question first, and then explain your examples. Here they've gone to the state regulations website as you did early in this semester, and they've given examples of several codes. Again, if you don't see codes being followed, then you can say, here's what it should be. Maybe there were signs of chipping paint, and you know that's not appropriate. You can state that. As you conclude, you'll reflect on what you've learned overall in this observation, and then when you get down to the bottom, you should have your references listed on a separate page following APA format. So be very specific and very accurate. And that's the general idea of your observation. Should you choose to submit in paragraph form, you can certainly choose to do that. This student decided to take out the questions and write in an essay form. So you can either do question and answer like the one I just showed you, or you can do essay form, which would be the same here. You'd still fill out the top. This student introduces what they were talking about, kind of where they went and what they were looking at. And then you can see they start to answer the questions in the same way as the first example that I showed you, only they're writing in paragraph form. So that's completely up to you. Here's a 12 Principles reference, and they follow the same pattern, just a different approach. Okay? And then lastly, you have your theory chart. So your theory chart you should take with you to each observation, and you're looking to gather 2 samples for each theory by the time you're done with all 3 observations. So you don't need to submit this with observation 1 or 2, though you can if you want feedback, but you're going to submit it in complete form with all examples needed with observation 3. So you'll have 2 for Bandura, 2 for Howells, and this person is working on Erikson. So they would have maybe a discussion of trust versus mistrust, and what they saw, and maybe autonomy versus self-doubt, and they'll make those connections. So the idea is that you capture 2 examples by the time you're done of each of the theories of development. This will prove to be a very useful guide for you to quick reference what the theories mean in the future for this class, or really for any class that you have. So if you do it well, then it will really support your learning of these theories, which really are the foundation for all of the choices we make about developmentally appropriate practice. They are the research that guides us. So again, you don't need 2 from toddler, 2 from preschool, 2 from elementary. You need 2 total in each section. And you'll submit that with observation 3, and that will be a separate grade. I'll give you a grade for completion of this separately from your observation 3. So we can talk more in class or in our online meeting, depending on which section you're in. But hopefully that gives you a clear idea of how to complete your observations to get the grade that you want and to learn the most that you can from this course.